Dave, smack some more, please, Wanda. David Dodd is out. He's in New York doing a Beyonce concert or something, or whatever he does with his makeup. But anyway, so we're here in the studio today. Today we're going to have a really jam-packed show. We're going to be talking about the Jamel Morris case. We've all been talking about it on this show actually last week. We discussed it about how it's not picking up a lot of traction in LA, and now we have the family's attorney who's going to call in and talk to us about the case and what the updates are. She's going to be joining us, and also I was just telling Isaac this in the boardroom that meth is the new black. Did you know that, Isaac?
I had no idea.
Well, the Griot.com reporter George Johnson is going to call in and talk to us about his story. How he unpacks this meth epidemic that's taking place among straight and gay people in the African American community. It's crazy out there, isn't it? And then we're going to dive into the question that has been on my mind for about 20 years now. Should there be an age limit on bottoming? Isaac?
I mean, you know what? It is.
It's a valid question.
It's the answer of the age. I'm sorry, it's the question of the age.
It's a valid question. So we're going to dive into that question and talk about, and someone's going to call in and talk about exactly their story, they wrote on this, and see if there is an age limit. Because I'm thinking after, 60, I may not want to be bottomed anymore, really, per se. I'm just an oral bottom. Perhaps. All right, Isaac has no comment. Anyway, all right, so let's dive into your week. How was your week?
My week was pretty good, uneventful, except for maybe yesterday.
Wait, what happened yesterday?
I really like.
You're such an old man. If you were honestly looking at us on YouTube Live, you can see him moving around like,
I don't care. Like, I'm really tired. Bitch, I've been through radiation today.
Oh, okay, I get it.
Go fuck yourself. I can give two shits about your opinion right now. But yeah, I was going back and forth, arguing with myself, whether I should tell this story. So I'm gonna tell it.
Yeah, what's the story? Yeah, now I really want to hear it. This sounds scandalous.
It's so funny. So I'm running home, and I'm like, you know what? I don't have any weed.
Oh, right.
So, I mean, and for those of you who are not familiar with Bronzeville, if you live in Bronzeville, you know that one block is Pleasantville, and the next block is whatever. It's Minister Society or whatever. So, literally. So, but that makes it makes it more New York.
It does actually make it more New York.
It does. When high class and grimy, live side by side, it's awesome. So anyway, so in my neighborhood, the one sure place to get some weed if you're desperate, because there's always so much drama in front of this liquor store, but it's on 47th, right off of Champlain, whatever.
Right.
So I was like, I had actually never done it, but I've gotten wine from that store many times.
Right.
But the guys in front are always selling weed, right?
All right.
And you know what? I was like, the last 2 days my appetite hasn't really been, and
it's medicinal.
And I need help with my I need help with my nausea.
It's so amazing.
So yeah. So anyway, whatever the case was, I was gonna get a sack of weed from somebody that was in front of the liquor store.
Right.
First time, right?
Right.
This is literally yesterday. This after I went to radiation. On my way home, I'm just gonna get a bag of weed and go on in the house. I've already got one. So
one vice down.
I've already got mine the day before. So I really didn't walk up. When I walk up to the liquor store entrance, these boys who they're the ones who sell the weed, whatever. They're having an argument with this other guy. This other guy is
wasn't loud.
Kind of older, loud as fuck. It was so loud. Oh my God. So they were just going back and forth. It was just talk. Dude, get off me. Dude, get away from me. Dude, like that, right?
Right.
So the guy who was, being whatever the aggravator, he left. Okay. So I walked up to this other guy. It was, sitting there, and I was like, "Hey, do you have weed?" He was like, "Yeah, I got you." Like, he's like, "What you want?" As soon as I say that, and we're about to start this transaction,
like,
here comes the agitator again. Back to like argue with this other guy, the really loud guy, right? So he has to get some more. So he comes back and he starts arguing with the guy again. So the guy who's supposed to like sell me the bag of weed steps away from me real quick and hits the guy, the agitator, right? Hits him like boom, like this, right? Knocks him to the ground, and then they both start stomping him.
Oh my God.
They start stomping him, and then the guy who was about to sell me the weed, a gun jumps out of his pocket onto the ground.
Great.
And literally,
what do you?
You ever had those? You ever like watch this shit like on TV or in movies and said, "Man, I would have I would have been my ass would have been gone. I would have ran
there for your purchase."
I was standing there like this. I was standing there like this.
Oh my God!
I was like, really? Is this really happening right now?
Right.
I'm just trying to get a bag of weed.
Just trying to get a sub up.
Do you know what I mean? It was so much. Anyway, that's really the abridged version. But I did get the weed. But I'm just saying, like, that was just a lot.
That's a lot.
Like, y'all doing a lot right here on 47th and Champlain or whatever this is.
Wow.
It was a lot. I'm like, when the gun popped, I was like, really? A gun?
What happened to the guy? Is he okay? Like, did he get was he really injured?
Actually,
did he get up and walk?
Because he did. He got up and walked away, and he kept talking shit as he walked across the street, and he was going into this door, and the other loud guy told the guy who was selling me the weed to hold his back. He walked across the street, followed the guy into the door he was going in, and started beating him up, and I just turned the corner and just like...
Did nothing.
I did nothing.
You did nothing.
I did my civic duty to do nothing.
Stand your ground.
Oh my God. Stand your ground. Don't be no fool.
No, you're no fool.
Mama didn't raise no fools.
That's
but
insane.
it was so funny. But having that happen to me makes me know that you never know what the fuck you're gonna do, because I thought everything that was happening to me was happening in slow motion, and I was making a joke about it in my head. Like, I was just like, are y'all really doing that shit in front of me? Like, did a gun just drop out of your pocket? Do you know what I mean?
It's so real.
It was so
so real.
When I walked away, I was like, I don't know. I was just laughing. I just really was. It was like, that was so surreal. That was crazy.
Yikes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, perhaps you should get what's that?
I'm going to get some kind of delivery service.
Right. Exactly. It's left to your home. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Ah.
But now I can say I've done it.
Now you say you've done it.
Hey, not a virgin anymore. And I'm pretty proud of that.
Now you know where to go back. Get tomorrow. Isaac Weed Adventures, we love those.
Yeah.
He's gonna come back.
I think that may be a segment.
I think it is. He's gonna come back every week and tell us his weed adventures.
Absolutely.
Around Chicago.
Yeah,
while he goes through cancer.
Cancer.
Yes.
Oh God, I gotta milk. I've only got about 7 more days to milk this. So
okay.
I'll be done soon.
Then you can't.
No, I can't.
You can't afterwards.
I can't afterwards.
Yeah.
The recovery.
It's medicinal recovery.
Yeah, the medicinal recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my week has been awesome. I didn't have any weed adventures as you did, as you probably can imagine.
It's okay.
But I did meet Sir Patrick Stewart this week. He was in town for Chicago International Film Festival, and he was receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award. And let me tell you, this guy is the most darling man. So much energy. He's got to be like 65, 70, something like that. So much energy and so kind. I just loved him more after I saw him, after I met him.
He just seemed like a great person.
His personality is just explosive. I wanted to hang out with him for the rest of the night, but I couldn't figure out where the after party was, so, but whatever. But if I would have asked Sir Patrick, he would have told me. That's how nice he is. Like, oh yeah, come on, come with me, get in the car. Is that a really good rendition?
In the car. You sound like Patrick Stewart on Family Guy.
Right, exactly. But he was just an amazing, and he gave this very tearful speech after as he accepted the award, and just a really amazing cat. And he is doing some really amazing things, and like in the film world, obviously, you know. Did you see Logan? That film Logan?
That was amazing.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, that was like Wolverine doesn't have to make any more movies after that one.
Yeah.
Or I think that was the last one anyway.
That was the last one for him.
Yeah. That one was pretty awesome.
Yeah, but anyway, so I mentioned Patrick Stewart, which made my week, and
that's great.
Yeah, and Professor X, Xavier, and then I'm gearing up for Palm Springs next week. Oh, my first time there. Have you been?
No. I plan to retire there.
I know.
In 2 years. But
with all the rich white gays.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll be there doing actually a special assignment for the SIP, which you'll hear next Friday. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'll be there hanging out and you know by the pool, chilling, getting a little tan, even though I'm really dark skinned. But it'll be really nice. So I'll send you pictures of it.
That's good. That's great.
Yeah, I'll be doing that too. All right, so let's dive into high topics. As we spoke about last week, there has been this really, I guess, emotional case that we've been talking about on this show about Jamel Moore. He was the guy he was the African American guy that was found in this Democratic Party donor's house, and we now know him as Ed Buck house. He was found dead, and there's some reports about Ed Buck was given drugs and he overdosed and a lot of allegations out there. And we saw this story. It happened back in July, and now we're seeing a resurgence of this story now currently in the news, which is really great news. But what I read something today in the LA Sentinel about the family's attorney actually trying to bring this case back out and saying how the sheriff department is actually dragging their feet and investigating this death at Ed Buck's home. So we actually have the lawyer on the phone, Anna. I'm gonna butcher your last name, Anna. Attorney Anna Ganafi, right? Nana Jumpy. Oh, I'm the worst at names too, and I'm
0400.
0400.
Awesome.
Nana Gumpy is on the phone with us to talk to us about the case. Thank you for joining our show. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and when I read the story today in LA Sentinel, I was like, this story needs some more traction, some more visibility. So can you tell us exactly what are some of the updates and some of the facts of why the sheriff office is dragging its feet on this case? Wow. Oh. Right. So wait, so the reports in the media about it being a drug overdose is completely not valid. Okay, it's true. Wow. What?
That's insane.
Right.
Oh my God.
Right. Right, exactly.
Wow.
Right.
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 Right. Yeah, she wasn't having it, right. So, wow. Wow. What?
Okay, so how do we know that this overdosing wasn't his by his own free will?
Right, so is it a case of murder or?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
Right.
It's
Right.
it's a pretty normal thing in this lifestyle.
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Right. So, whoa. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. 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 So, what are the charges being? Are there any charges being against Ed Buck right now? That being are really. Yeah. So what do you want to come out of this? Do you want Ed Buck to be in prison? Do you want him to, or what do you want to? What does the family want out of this case? I mean, obviously justice for Jamel's death, but what do they really want for, like, you know, Jamel's justice? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Yes, yes.
That's so true.
Right, not prison, or attempt murder for each pill.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow. Black women. Whoa. This is baffling to me. I mean, just hearing this, hearing you say where you're saying, it just gives me chills, and can't imagine that this is actually happening in America, in LA or in a major city. I mean, call me naive, but it just sounds really insane to me that this is like dehumanizing black people, black humans. I mean, we've been doing this for years, but I mean, it's centuries, but this is just baffling. So, I mean, as an attorney, can you actually charge Ed Buck with anything to get him imprisoned? Right. Will, yes.
Mm.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. Right, right, yeah. I mean, which I do. Luckily, I do have one of those. Yeah.
Right, seriously.
I just ordered mine.
That's insane. Okay. Right,
Yeah.
right. So, I mean, I guess, so, I mean, obviously the family is mourning and, you know, and probably in a really horrible place until this is actually taken care of. And I saw some of justiceforjamel.com, some of the videos there of the speakers were just so moving and so powerful. What can we do to help this? I mean, obviously, having you on the show was one of the things. What can we do to help if you're just a normal citizen? Well, our thanks to Nana Yamfi, who is the family attorney for Jamel Moore. We wish you luck. Go get him, and we'll be supporting you all the way there. All right? Take care. Thank you for doing our show. We'll be right back with more hot topics. Stay with us, guys. I hope her name was Nana Yamfi. I hope her name was Nana Yamfi. I cannot say black names. Why can't I say black names? I'm a black person.
Because you're so racist.
I'm so racist.
Oh my god.
So we should do what? We should do. We're always on. We should do a date. Win a date with Ed Buck.
Okay.
That was insane.
You just said Janelle Monáe.
Yes, Janelle Monáe. Yes, thank you. Yes.
Right.
Because she's apparently a lesbian now. Well, allegedly.
Oh, nice.
But you knew that already. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know. Anybody with eyes.
Right.
Or vagina.
Gang recognizes gang.
Right.
All right, y'all got 2 minutes.
All right.
Y'all got 2 minutes.
Line
There you
in.
go. All right, I got it. Bye.
Thank you.
What's going on?
And giving hope to hungry children and their
Oh, nice. I was wondering how they were going to listen to that.
That ain't
Is George on the phone? George on the phone?
Nobody's on the phone.
Damn it.
Give me his number right quick.
I don't even have his number.
Tell if
Yeah,
you
it's on
can
the
get
phone.
him, come call me right now, I'll get him.
Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
We're solving hunger? You don't have any snacks?
No snacks. Fat girl. David just has other food. and we're back on the sip, and we're playing Janelle Monáe purposely because there's allegations that she's going to come out as a lesbian, which we kind of already knew. I interviewed her back in 2008. God, I'm old. 2008, I interviewed her, but Janelle Monáe, when I interviewed her in 2008, she was she's dating Tessa Thompson, who's an actress, and she's really pretty anyway. But yeah, she was very pro-gay rights, pro-LGBT issues, which is really cool. But I kind of got the lesbian vibe from her, but these are all allegations are not true at all, but well, maybe not true. Oh yeah, Isaac said when I told him, he's like, girl, I knew this already. It's like, really? That's what we are? Anyway, all right. So we just actually, our conversation with Nana Yamfi, who's the attorney for Jamel Moore's family, gave us some really explosive information about the case, and I had no idea. We're actually going to do a little campaign here. Win a date with Ed Buck and die.
No. there's like a stop. I'm like,
It's not funny, but
not-
it's crazy though. Ed Buck is getting off, but hopefully he gets what's coming to him. I mean, even though he was in, these guys were willing, probably willing. I don't know. That was part of the contract or the money that he was giving them. That they had to use drugs. But I mean, even though that is a part, he has to be some accessory to murder, I think. Or
yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the, I'm sure there are some women, there's some women who voluntarily took the pill from Bill Cosby.
right.
No doubt in my mind.
Right. I mean, yeah, that's true. So,
yeah, but there were some women who were drugged unknowingly by Bill Cosby as well.
True.
That I strongly believe.
yeah, true.
And so, just because, some people say, well, yeah, I took it willingly or whatever, doesn't mean that other people were not, drugged against their will. And,
Well, this is actually a great segue from Jamel Moore's case to a story that I read today on thegrio.com by George Johnson, who did a really great op-ed on thegrio.com called "Meth is the New Black: A Growing Epidemic in Communities of Color." And so we've talked about this a lot on the show, how meth is, or Tina, is a drug that's, really hugely popular in gay black males.
and well, the sex parties.
Chemsex, right?
Yeah, chemsex parties, yeah.
Right. So I mean, so it's actually an issue that we've been talking about a lot on this show, and we're really happy to have George Johnson from thegrio.com to join us on this conversation. Thank you, George, for doing our little show.
Thank you guys for having me.
And I know you're at homecoming and you want to go out and go party, so I will keep this very brief for you. So tell me why you decided to write this article or this op-ed about meth in the black community.
Absolutely. So it started to hit close to home, and that's why I decided it was time for me to write about what was going on within the community. I have a very, very, very close friend who is dealing with it currently, and we have all as friends and associates of him been going through a lot, trying to get him into rehab, noticing the signs, because a lot of times you don't see the signs, and it was like, oh, he missed my birthday.
Right.
Oh, he missed my other friend's birthday. Oh, he missed, this event, then this event. And then before you know it, we live in the same city and I haven't seen you in 10 months. And so when that started to occur, that's when I knew it was like, okay, I have to speak out about this. I have to write about this. Somebody has to say something. As somebody who has used, the app, Jack and Grinder,
Right.
the capital T when people say party.
Mm-hmm.
It's becoming so normalized that it's scary and it's dangerous because people are dying from it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just not talking about it.
And you're right, and this is I'm going to read something from your article, and you say, quote, "Meth is the new black, better yet the new crack that has found its way into black communities without much information on how it arrived, and it increases in the number of users over the past 10 years. A Google search on this problem will only bring back a few documented instances on how bad it is becoming for black folks in major metro city areas." So, I mean, that quote really spoke home to me because we're not hearing about this in mainstream media at all, about this epidemic. And you even cited something in the New York Times, 2015 New York Times, how black men, many of whom shared their experience of sex binges, are fueled by meth. I just wonder how does that make you feel to know that a community like a marginalized community is, being a part of this meth epidemic?
I couldn't hear the last part.
Oh, I was just saying, how do you feel about, just knowing that this marginalized community of African American and people of color are being affected by meth?
Again, and right, it's hard because you sit and you watch the opioid epidemic become like the main news story. And it's only because it affects white folks.
Right. It is.
When epidemics, and again, epidemics that still currently exist within our community, like HIV, like diabetes, like the meth epidemic, when they affect people of color and marginalized communities, we don't get headlines. We don't get government willing to give millions upon billions of dollars to stop the crisis. And so unfortunately what we watch happen is the opioid epidemic overshadow the fact that there's an entire epidemic happening within marginalized populations. So then it becomes the job of, you know, people like me, journalists and people who live within those communities, to start sharing those stories and start getting those stories out there about what our concerns are and what's going on around us that we also need help with.
Right.
There's a lack of education. People don't even know the signs. And so, you know, many of us have friends, and we're just like, yeah, they behave, they're becoming a little erratic, but, you know, they about to turn 30, so, you know, you know, or they're about to turn 24, or 25, excuse me, so they're going through a quarter-life crisis. And we not realizing, like, no, like, some of our friends are struggling, and they, you know, they're coping using stronger drugs, and they're coping using, or they're escalating from weed to cocaine to meth. And meth is a lot different because meth takes such a toll on the body. And it just, you know, from hygiene, from your teeth rotting, from your heart weakening, like it really takes a toll on the body. And so it's just so important that as marginalized people, when epidemics are affecting us and not being spoken about, that we talk about them more and that we get the stories out there and that we start to check our friends and check on our friends and check in with our friends who may be dealing with this, and we just may not be educated enough, which is why it was important that what's the story in post signs that you should be looking for.
You know, when you were talking about the signs of you know, the signs to look for, whatever. I know that I've experienced that with a close friend, who remain nameless, of course. And you know, I saw those, you know, when you said, oh, you missed this birthday, oh, you missed that birthday, oh, you missed that birthday, you know, like, yeah, like they all of a sudden they missing all the shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They go from being present
To be
at everything,
invisible.
from being like, oh my God, you can't catch them for anything.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
And they don't act the same. They don't look the same. You know, they don't behave the same at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost as if, you know, someone has taken over them. Like that's not, that they're the shell of the friend that you once had. And you know, and that's one thing. And then the other thing that really bothers me about it on more of a, you know, broader level, as far as like a societal level, is that people don't realize that Black gay men, you know, our stats as far as like being HIV positive and dying of AIDS, all this stuff, that stuff goes up. You know, those percentages go up for us like yearly. You know, like, and you know, we're already like 51%, half of us are positive, as it is.
Right.
You know what I mean?
1 out of 2.
And those are the ones that have been tested.
Right.
You know, so the fact that that's so awful when it should be, the trend should be going in the other direction, like it is, like it's going, like it is going for with whites, is, you know, it's disheartening. And if we don't get a hold on this, like this chemsex meth thing that's happening, whatever, those two combined, that's like an atomic bomb. Like that's enough to like to destroy the whole community.
Yeah.
And we don't really have that much time.
Right. I mean, even in your piece, George, you mentioned about Jamel Moore, whose attorney was just on our show to talk about what happened and how, you know, the comparison with Harvey Weinstein case and this case with Ed Buck and Jamel Moore are completely different. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, I mean, like unfortunately, like in our community, like, well, powerful white men have done things to to be able to, you know, take advantage of people. And so in that case, when you, unfortunately, like I don't even know, I'm like at a loss for words. Like,
Yeah.
look at that case, and that's what, and honestly, that's what triggered it, because like I was reading about it, and it just reminded me of so many other situations that I knew other Black gay men to be in, where white men not only fetishized them, but then took advantage of them, and then intersected it with drug use, and intersected it with not only just drug use, but like hardcore drug use.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're able to take advantage of them. We all, and in the article, you know, you limited the word count. I would love to get into how a lot of these porn companies and white porn companies, like, they literally look for Black gay men as soon as they turn 18 to start filming and to start becoming the next porn star and getting them high on set and having them do these things that they normally wouldn't do if they were sober, or if they, you know, weren't struggling. Like, they find these people who are just walking home from work and walking the street. Because again, like, if you're taking public transportation and you're doing these things, the assumption is that, okay, well, this person can't afford a car, or this person may have this, or may have that, and they use money and they use drugs to take advantage of our people. And so with that case, it's like, I'm glad that, you know, now it's being looked into a lot deeper, because so much uproar happened around it.
Right.
Because this case speaks to something that has been happening in our community for a very long time, that we just don't talk about.
Right.
And that's why when I spoke with Antonio Burt from Us Helping Us about it, he talked about, like, you know, the statistics around the sex circles, and how the sex circles are primarily ran by white men who are fetishizing Black men, and spending all this money to get them high and to do these things and have these quarterly parties and monthly parties where, you know, they're paying them well, but they're also getting them high. And then when, you know, you get somebody high on meth and then you send them back out into the world,
It's a whole new world.
they're still high.
Yeah.
You know, they're still chasing that addiction. And so while they're losing their jobs and losing their homes and doing all these things, in between your quarterly parties, that quarterly party is their come up now. And so now they become dependent on that for survival. And so I'm like I said, again, I'm glad that story got out, but again, it's sad that we watch, like, the Weinstein story gets so much press and so much play, and then stories around marginalized communities don't get that type of attention.
Right.
And, you know, we kind of die underneath these big stories of people who gonna be rich regardless.
Right.
Yeah.
Telling their story. Like,
Right.
you know what? You know, that's how race culture works, right? Because it's like, it's great. Like,
Exactly.
I'm appreciative that they're coming out against Weinstein. But it's like, how many Georges died at the expense of someone famous coming out against someone else famous?
Right.
And overshadowing my story of how I've been accused for all these years by these same type of people.
Yeah.
That would never get that same type of play.
In your story, you say, my fear is of the day that I send the "Are you alive?" text and there's no response. You're talking about your friend Jay. How is he doing?
And you know, of course, like, I'm at homecoming, so people know who the person is. And again, like, you know, change the names and stories for protection reasons.
Right.
I know, you know, I think it's important that I'm honest.
Yeah.
And so I have to spend, you know, like, if I text and I don't get a response one day, I'm like, okay. I text again, I don't get a response the next day, I'm like, okay. And I literally, on like the third or fourth day, will send like, yo, you alive? And they always respond to the "you alive" text, because they know, like, okay, like, before I either show up at the door banging, which I've had to do before because it's that bad.
Wow.
They always respond to that.
Yeah.
And so at this point, it's like, just to making sure you're still alive. Because again, with a person that's addicted to meth, they have to be ready to stop. And that's something I also learned, like with this whole process, they have to be ready to stop. And unless they're ready to stop, there's nothing that any of us can do.
It has to be a choice, for sure. Wow. So he is alive, and has he talked about getting help at all?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I said he is alive, which is good. Is he talking about getting help at all?
And so we placed them in rehab once. They tried it, they stopped. They tried it again, they stopped. And so at some point, you have to let people be people.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you can't stop your life to save someone else who's not ready to save themselves.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of where we are, My whole goal at this point is like, just to making sure that my friend is still alive. And when they're ready, I'll be there.
Yeah. I can imagine how this has changed your friendship in some regards. I mean, it sounds like you guys are very close, and maybe the drug has made you guys a little bit more estranged, if you will, but still there's a lot of love there. It must be difficult.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I talk about it in the article, like, it's like you're mourning someone who's still alive. You're grieving for a person that's still alive because you've lost the relationship. And so you grieve the loss of the relationship even though that person still exists. And you often aren't talking to the person, but you're talking to the drug most times.
Right.
And so when you're talking to drugs will tell you anything to help that person get their next high. And so they'll tell you whatever they need to tell you with the hope that you'll lead them to getting their next high. And so at some point you just kind of have to like end it, cut off the relationship for your own safety until that person is ready and in a place to be ready to save themselves.
Yeah, like I really feel like I'm kind of at that point with my friend where we don't really talk. Like we don't really communicate that much anymore unless it's on Facebook, and they don't visit me, I don't visit them, I don't like their friends, you know what I mean? And I don't want their friends over at my place, Right. So, and I'm sure he pretty much knows that.
Yeah.
And we just can't have a friendship right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all know someone who is using meth, or who is gay and black, or just black or black person of color is using meth. So, and I want to end with this, and I know you want to get to the drinking part of the homecoming.
Let's wait. So I'm an alpha, and so I'm running home because it's our 105th anniversary for my chapter, and they're literally calling me because I have to buy all the tickets for the chapter.
Oh my God.
Right now, I'm literally running like, oh my God, like they're calling me like I gotta get the tickets. Yeah, that's so put the care of me.
We're gonna let you go, and I want to say thank you, George Johnson, for sharing your story and sharing this amazing story. And I really hope this gets out to a lot of people. We have shared this on the Facebook page. George Johnson is the managing editor for BroadwayBlack.com. He's written for Ebony, The Griot, Team Vogue. He's fucking everywhere. George, have a great homecoming, and thank you for having sharing your story in our show.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care, George. These are the conversations that we need to have on the show, and they're so real, and they hit so close to home. And I mean,
yeah, but people I don't know. I mean, people are talking about it like maybe in private, like but they're not. I mean, they're not being vocal about it.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, the last
people are walking around acting like that shit's okay. That shit's not okay.
It's not cool. It's not. I mean, I know personally. It's not cool. It's not cool. And he ends his story by saying, "Math is here, and if we don't begin to address this problem, our community will continue to be destroyed, one hit at a time." Brilliantly written. Love those. I mean, I love those types of stories where people really are vulnerable about their own friendship, and you can even tell in George's voice how Jay is still struggling with addiction and still a problem with him with their friendship. So it's real out here. It's really real. Kim Sex. Ed Buck, thanks. Yes. Anyway, so that's a very I guess I don't know how to transition to this, and where we're going to be coming up next. We're going to be talking about
Just go there.
I am. Should there be an age limit on bottoming?
Oh, wow.
We may have an expert calling in. I'm not sure if they're going to be available, but if
An
not,
expert?
an expert who has written a story about. Well, not really an expert. He's more of a journalist.
I was just gonna ask, like,
Yeah.
what is his expertise in?
He's been a bottom for 100 years.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so we're gonna dive into that conversation. I think Isaac and I have some really interesting ideas. I mean, Isaac a former bottom, now a top, moonlighting as a top.
Moonlighting. Oh, now I think I think I found my home.
You found your home.
Yeah, I found my Boca Raton. I'm never leaving.
And so we should also mention too that Being Mary Jane has been canceled. Did you know that? So
They actually canceled it?
They canceled the show, and I think it was because
Gabrielle Union?
Yes, Gabrielle Union.
She was too strong, and she was too black, and she was a woman.
She was an ugly black woman. But no, like I think there was some reports, Curtis, I don't know if you agree with this, but she said she was tossing salad to her Dwayne Wade, and that caused a lot of rupture.
Oh, please. Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious.
I got a serious scene.
I'm the biggest Being Mary Jane fan too. I love that show.
As freaky as she was, they're tripping on Gabrielle Union talking about she likes to toss salad.
And Ed Buck is still donating money to the Democratic Party. Yes, it's crazy. So Being Mary Jane,
I got a serious scene. Sorry.
it's canceled. So it's very.
Yeah, but it was already canceled though. Like it was canceled. I mean, they had already decided they were gonna have one more movie.
Oh, they're gonna have a movie, right?
So but that was decided like
That's true.
6 weeks ago.
Yeah, you're right.
So the sausage. See, that's what I mean. I have the receipts. I have the receipts.
Well, I'm gonna Google some more and figure out the real
The timeline.
The timeline of all of this.
Yeah.
But I thought it was crazy. Anyway, we're gonna take an early break, Curtis. Let's go to break, and when we come back, we'll talk about should there be an age limit to bottoming.
Should there?
I'm an expert, so I'll tell you.
It's a question for the ages.
All of this when you come back on the SIF. Stay with us.
I make this my screensaver.
Whoa! Who is that? That's Trevante Rose? She's really sexy. What's this? Okay, yes. So this is October. Oh no, it's actually recent. So Being Mary Jane canceled. BET drama will wrap up with a 2-hour series finale in 2018.
Show is this week's top 10 and the Gospel
Yeah.
Countdown Rewind.
So this is October 11th.
It's New Music Monday.
I don't think it was because of the scandal. I think they were already canceling. You're right.
Starting at 7, right here on UPM Radio.
Join the Metropolitan Apostolic Community Church and Reverend Dr. Leon Finney as we honor the 2017 Peace Planners at the Met Jubilee Peace Planter Awards. Hosted by Sonia Blakey of Inspiration 1390 Radio and V103, with Grammy-awarded musical director Dr. Willetta Green Johnson, featuring Chicago's own multi-awarded recording artist, R&B songstress Teresa Griffin. Showtime is at 7 p.m. on Friday, November 17 at 4100 South King Drive. Doors open at 6 p.m. for a VIP reception. You don't want to miss this outstanding night of honoring those who have worked to plant peace in the city of Chicago. A Lifetime Achievement Award will be given to business mogul, peace planter John Rogers of Ariel Capital Management.
John Rogers again.
Spectacular night
He's a really
of
sweet guy, though.
awards.
Okay, you got another phone call coming, right?
No, I think he actually just texted me canceled. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So we're going on and
We're just gonna talk about this story. You have a story you want to talk about?
Dr. Sue.
Okay, I'll find something.
And you're gonna kill it at 7:30.
Yep.
Okay, no problem.
7:27. 7:27.
Well,
Like, wait. All right, yeah, we're
she
good.
helps me fill all my prescriptions.
Okay.
Stay here for the conversation.
Never have to cook. By the way, they give me one of those weeks plans.
No way! That's huge.
Just found that out.
give him what?
And millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and save for tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
That's huge. Nice.
Good
for you.
No applause.
You just pawn that award, you probably get $10.
Yeah, man.
The term breeding isn't enough to describe him. He's also certified organic and free range, which puts the cap back on everything. The toothpaste, the olive oil, the shampoo, everything. He lets his 10-year-old nephew beat him at virtual tennis, even though he can street or slay his 10-year-old nephew in virtual tennis. When the toilet paper is running low, Rich replaces the roll on the actual
What the hell is that?
not just on the back of the toilet. Rich is texting and driving. Rich, no. What are you doing, Rich? I was just telling everyone how great you are. Texting and driving makes good people look bad. Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
This is Bertina Power, and I'll be your host of Empower Hour right here on Urban Broadcast Media. You can check us out at urbanbroadcastmedia.com Monday through Friday, 12 noon, right at your lunchtime hour. We'll be here, and our goal to recharge your mind, recharge your purpose, and recharge your sense of community. I look forward to talking to you soon.
The Empower Hour with Bertina Power, weekdays at noon on UBM Radio.
It only takes a minute to find out if you may have prediabetes, and you can do it at doihaveprediabetes.org. But you're probably not going to. Nope.
You're trying to make that Javante Rose receiver work.
Kids, work. I get it. You're busy. So what better time than now? Let's begin. Raise one finger if you're a man. Ladies, none yet. Oh, count in your head if you're driving. Now, 3 more fingers for everyone over 60, 2 over 50, 1 over 40, 1 more if you're not physically active, another finger if anyone in your family has type 2 diabetes, another if you've got high blood pressure. If you're overweight, raise another finger.
So basically,
2 if
relax.
you're very overweight, and 3 if you're really overweight. You've just taken the world's first audio pre-diabetes test. And if you're holding up 5 or more fingers, visit doihaveprediabetes.org or talk to your doctor. There's no excuse because prediabetes can be reversed.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
UBM Radio.
Powered by Urban Broadcast Media.
Chicago.
And we're back on the sip. That sounds like we're in like a skating rink kind of song, right? I should roller skate backwards. I could never roller skate backwards. All right, we're back on the sip with Lennox Magee and of course the Salt and Pepper Isaac.
Yeah.
Doesn't it dashing? If you're watching us on YouTube right now, it's a live footage. You can see Isaac.
Yeah, you can really see my grades with this interrogation light. Yeah.
It's an interrogation light. It is. And we found out actually. So, Be Mary Jane was actually scheduled to be canceled in 2018.
Like I said.
Yeah, like you said. You're right. You're right. The
former boss be making up shit.
We did just make that up. Like, oh, that's Austin Salad allegation.
She was Austin Salad. Yup, that's why. Yup.
Dwayne Wade Salad.
Yeah. Okay, close out the school.
All right, so our major question for tonight has been, on my mind ever since I became a bottom. And I remember the day. It was a Thursday.
The day was born. The day he was born.
Okay, so should there be an age limit on bottoming? So this question's been asked. It was on datalounge.com, and a lot of people were just asking, like, there should be an age for, being a bottom. So older guys bottoming was the subject line, right? And so a lot of people said that maybe after 50, you should stop bottoming. And Dan Avery, who wrote the story he's the editor-in-chief for newnownnext.com. He had some really interesting points. He said that, Well, first of all, let's get your perspective. What do you think about, should there be an age limit of bottoming? I know you were
Okay, yeah, well, yeah. It'll be 7 years in March that I haven't bottomed. 7 years. The best 7 years of my adult life thus far.
Thus far.
But before that happened, I used to think about this.
Yeah.
And to the point where I asked my aunt, who's she's been like a nurse for like 30, 35 years.
Okay.
I asked her, in her job, does she come across old gay guys who are incontinent because of the bottoming?
Oh, okay.
She said, absolutely.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, she said absolutely.
So did she guys?
She said because of years and years and years of doing that.
Penetrated,
you know. Eventually, it gives up. Okay, so it's not tremendous anymore.
So medically, it can become an issue later on in life.
Absolutely.
I mean,
yeah.
So I mean, obviously, we had on the show a rectal doctor on here. We were talking about cancer, anal cancer,
colorectal doctor.
Yes, exactly, colorectal, exactly. And he was saying how you can't really get I thought I was under the school of thought that if you had a large penis and you were like being penetrated by a large penis, you can possibly get anal cancer. Like that was my ridiculous irrational logic.
That's kind of like that's kind of like, oh my God, it's so cold. Now I have a cold. That's not how you get colds, people. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, that was one of my concerns, but. Even like now, like I'm 36 and I'm gearing up.
You look a day with 35, by the way.
Oh, you fucking kind. But no, I was.
But you knew that. Anyway.
The Uber guy told me I was 21.
Oh,
that's super cute.
You wanted that too. You wanted that new feature.
But no, so I was wrestling with that idea, like, when am I going to stop bottoming? Like, is there going to be an age limit for that to stop? And so. There's a quote in here that he says, let me just see if I can find it. Like, so what happens when you stop bottoming? Do you just become an oral bottom or like a top?
Hey, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what happens. No, and I'm not being catty or anything. I'm actually being honest here. I really feel for people like you who like being bottoms.
Right.
Because like I said, I never thought I was good. I know I was terrible. I was just terrible at it. Yeah. I was, but I did enough to get the job done. But for people, because it was never my passion, but for people where it is their passion, where they actually have orgasms through that, it has to be, one day you gotta come to a fork in the road and be like. Do you know what I mean? Like,
what's next?
Right. Like, do you start teaching yourself other things?
Take a
pottery. Along the way. So when you get to that point, it's like, okay.
Take a pottery, maybe, or, a sweater.
Well, I mean.
It's a really,
Yeah, like competitive needlepoint. Which is killer.
A lot of people on this board on Data Lounge were saying that this is ageist and this it's kind of like just
it's ageist?
Yeah. I wish we had a doctor on the phone to talk about this. We should have got the colon rectal person to talk about this, but I wish we had a doctor to kind of give us the medical facts about what will happen to you if you've been bottoming for 40 years plus. How long have I been bottoming? 20 years. Jesus Christ. I'm a pro. But yeah.
If you will.
So I have no idea where to turn because I'm not a big guy. I love oral in theory, but after 10 minutes, I'm over it.
Yeah.
I can only give a blowjob for so long.
Yeah.
Jaws, I'm over it. So and I'm not a toss salad kind of guy.
Oh,
so it's what do I do now?
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm looking for answers.
You don't seem to want to come to the dark side. So.
I just can't be a top because all that thrusting, it just seems exhausting. And I'm like, I gotta focus on coming, I gotta thrust back and forth. It's just,
That's too much work for
it's
you.
like I need a Xanax just to think about it.
I get it.
Well,
but yeah, like I mean, I don't know what. If I was still bottoming, it would be something that would probably make me worry. Like it would.
Yeah, it's kind of stressful. It is. I mean, maybe I should take on grinding, which I hate. I think it's a waste of time. I gotta start thinking of some different options besides bottoming after 50, because I can't imagine being 65 and being a bottom. I just can't. Like, you know, just bending over, like,
Or like 2 65-year-olds.
Like, yeah. Well, anyway. Well, when I figure that out, I'll bring it right here.
And you know what? And fuck whoever says this was ageist.
Yeah.
And these are that was a good question.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to put that question out in the universe, and we would love some good educated feedback.
Yes, please. If you have some good advice for some alternatives to bottoming after 50, please let us know on our Facebook page or our YouTube or whatever. Send us a video. Not that kind of video, but maybe.
Life after bottoming.
Right, it's like goes through your teenage years, your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, and you're just like. Anywho, all right, we'll dive into that. That'll probably be a recording.
You're like,
Get off of me.
Horrible. Oh, yeah.
All right, so
Chill.
you bend over.
Get off my back.
We're standing up.
You know I got a slip disc.
All right, so there's another article that I saw on Lennox called 5 Messages Black Gay Men Want You to Stop Sending on Dating Apps. Do you want to hear those messages?
What's up?
Wait, that I don't think it's on
That's
there.
gotta be it.
No, okay. Well, the first one is,
What?
and this is by Lamar Dawson, who's on Lennox. How big is it? I get that all the time, and I'm like, did you see the ass pics in my photo?
I love BBC.
The second one was, I love black guys. That is a complete turnoff for me. When you say that, I'm like, you fetishizing piece of shit. Okay. And then number 3 was, I've never been with a black guy before. God, it just gets worse. And I've seen this on dating
apps.
apps.
About to unwrap me.
Right, I'm not a Christmas guy.
Right.
And number 4 was, I'm not usually into black guys. Oh, God.
I feel so special now. I mean, little old me, I caught your attention after all those black guys.
Thank you. Right.
I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy.
And number 5 was, number 5 is, you're not a top. What a waste. Wow. I mean, that has so many racial implications there. Like, God. You know, the one thing I hate on dating apps that I get is WYO, what you own.
What you own.
And I'm like, you didn't even say hi.
Tina, man.
Ed Buck.
Ed Buck. I'm on his face right now.
But yeah, so that's a really great story, and it's actually on our Facebook page. You don't do dating apps. You know, obviously you're in a marriage. You're basically married to gay. But when you work, do you ever do dating apps?
I've been on them before. I've had a jacked account before.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't work out so well.
Why? What do you mean? What does that mean?
I just never. I mean, I've never met anyone of substance. From the app.
It's a hookup app. Of course you didn't mean anything of substance.
Yeah, I mean, not even like for hookups. Like,
I should say that because I'm on hookup apps and I'm substantial.
Yeah.
So I don't want to disregard that portion of it. What is art? Explain the whole show.
What the fuck is this vaudeville?
All right, so that's a really good article, guys. Check out on newnownnext.com by Lamar Dawson.
New Now Next.
So, what about Justin Timberlake playing the Super Bowl? And
I won't be watching it.
You won't. You're gonna protest. Why?
I'm not protesting anything.
Why aren't you what?
They don't need me to watch.
Why?
I watch it on YouTube.
Or you can catch us on YouTube. But no, there's a lot of conversation about Janet Jackson being banned from the Super Bowl and obviously not being able to perform again. And now Justin Timberlake is because of that performance between Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson when her boob was exposed, blah, blah, blah. How do you feel about that?
It's some bullshit.
Yeah, it is kind of, right?
It's some white racist bullshit.
And I love it.
It is. No, it is. That is some white racist bullshit. But that's just how things go. I mean, I would expect nothing less racist than that coming from the NFL.
True.
I would not.
I mean, even bending the knee.
Not at this point. Not in the point we are in right now.
Yeah.
I would not expect anything less.
When you say it like that, it makes sense. Yeah. When you say it like that, it totally makes sense that the whole bending the knee thing that's going on with the NFL.
Not only are we gonna are we going to disrespect what your pain is and what you're kneeling for. We are going to show you how much we want you to kiss our asses by hiring Justin Timberlake to be the fucking entertainment.
And I found about Justin Timberlake should notice this. And I'm such a JT fan too. Like ever since day one of NSYNC, I've been a JT fan. And just knowing that he's doing this, and he's like in charge of the whole show.
And he's like, I mean, like, he's one of the guys, like, people be like, you know, he can come to the cookout.
Right, he is one of the guys that come to the cookout, right.
He can't come to my cookout. Bitch can't come to my cookout. He can't bring potato salad. That bitch can't even bring ice.
Well, I probably will watch it because I love JT still, but I just think the politics are way off on this one, NFL. But you know, NFL is pretty racist, I'm learning. Pretty racist. I didn't think it'll
Get that son of a bitch off the field. He's fired.
Yeah, so anyway. What new hot topics do you want to talk about, Isaac? I know you are a CNN nerd just like myself.
Yes, darling.
Politically, yes. What's some political news?
So, it looks like the House and the Senate are like, they both passed like, you know, they've gone through the first round of voting and passing the new budget for tax reform.
Oh,
It's not reform. It's tax breaks for rich people.
Right.
And they are trying to slip some shit in there. Like, I mean, they're giving the rich people all of these tax breaks, but poor people will only be getting an extra $60.
Oh, that's kind.
The middle class, the middle class, I forget, that number moves all the time, but like $70,000 or less might be getting around 660 extra bucks. And then it goes on from there. Like for people who are 150,000 or over, they get like 8,000. Wow. And then it, you know, yeah. But the middle class, we're not getting anything. Like, don't even worry about that. Like,
you're good. We're not getting you.
We're not getting anything. They're trying to bring down the amount of money that you can put into your 401k untaxed. It is $18,000 right now. They want to bring it down to $2,400. Okay, like this is shit in order to pay for these tax cuts. They want to take almost $1 trillion off of Medicaid over the next 10 years. Like, this is trying to kill all the poor people.
Wow.
Okay? All of them. 800 billion out of Medicare, yeah. 800 billion out of Medicare over the next 10 years. Like, I mean, it's serious. Like, they are literally trying to like ruin a generation because this is their last time that they feel that they're going to have the chance to do this, because it's probably their last time they're going to have a Republican president.
Yeah.
So they don't care what Donald Trump is doing and how much of a menace to society he is, as long as he can
do his medicine.
As long as he can sign their bills. And
I think I saw something today on CNN about how white men are now against a lot. Like, I think NPR did a study, or somebody did a study. I think it was NPR though. Did a study how white men are against Donald Trump now? Like, this is like a poll they did.
Well, yeah, he went down 12% in his base.
Wow.
He lost white men for the first time. He was last polled they were last polled in September.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, he's gone from like high 60s to low 50s of approval rating. So he's really losing his base.
So why do you think that is?
Well, that's because he's been in there 10 months and he hasn't done any of the shit that he said he was gonna do for the middle class.
Yeah.
None of it. He's done the complete opposite. He's robbing from the poor to give to the rich this entire time.
Wow.
And I think people are realizing that. And they're starting to realize this motherfucker's really trying to take away our health care. Like, okay, now we know that we know that our health care is called Obamacare. We know that we have Obamacare now, okay? We're past that, okay?
Right.
But now we know that we need it. Like, you can't take away our health care. And he's constantly trying to do that just because it has Obama's name on it.
Wow.
And they realize that.
Well, I guess it's better late than never. One of those moments.
Yeah.
I don't know, but you know, and I saw this recently. I was sitting there with Don Lemon. He did this tearful letter.
Oh, I saw that.
Did you see that?
Maisha Johnson.
Yeah, about Maisha Johnson and him, not being able to, the President Trump not being, able to call, didn't know David's name. And did you think
I saw it.
Did you think it was genuine? I thought it was really genuine.
Oh, from Don Lemon?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was genuine. Yeah.
Like, I love when he, I love when he gets really emotional and really into the stories. And, even when he was trying to bring on the pundits or whatever, the commentators to talk about it, he was just like,
as far as I know, Trump didn't respond to that.
He didn't. But the fact that, it really baffles.
Maybe he has that much class.
And apparently he watches Don Lemon too.
Oh, he secretly has a huge heart on
for Don
Lemon. Oh, I expected more from you.
But I think the most tragic part about this whole, Lil David thing is that he went on Twitter to call her a liar. And we all know that, presidents before Bush,
immediately after her interview.
Obama, immediately after him, yes. Bush, Obama have all just took it.
Yeah, you have
right.
to grin and bear it.
Right.
You're the fucking president. You have to rise to the fucking occasion.
Right.
When Kanye told George Bush, you don't care about black people, George Bush had to what? Grin and fucking bear it.
Yeah.
Because black people were still dying.
Yeah.
In Katrina. So it's like, what? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All I can do is try to prove to you that I do care about black people.
Right. And they're actually now looking into that whole incident with David in Nigeria, and I'm not sure what the reports are saying on CNN, but there's like an investigation why they're there.
What I remember reading on that was that they were in a convoy that was attacked by 4 Humvees or something like that, and then that caused these 4 men to be separated from the convoy.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, the second wave of attack was dozens of ISIS members on motorcycles that surrounded them all. So that was like the second wave of attack, and the guys were the American soldiers were not dressed in any kind of body armor. They were in like t-shirts and baseball caps, and it was a very they were it was
like an ambush.
The mission wasn't taken that seriously by the higher ups.
Wow.
So
this is more leveled than I thought. This is more, it's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, they there's a full-on investigation going on with the Pentagon, so we'll see what happens.
We'll see how that turns out.
It smells like Benghazi.
It does smell like Benghazi. It does. It really does.
What about Niger? That's what we're gonna be screaming.
Brand new t-shirts on the
That's
show.
gonna be screaming like when Trump is in public. What about Niger?
Well, anyway, so that's, well, you know, obviously, Magee Johnson, she's so brave for coming out in public and telling her story. So we're going to close out our show pretty soon. We want to, actually, I just want to definitely thank the attorney, Nana Yamfi, for giving us some really great insight on the case and what happened. I mean, there's a lot of miscommunication, I think, in the media right now about what happened, and it's really good really great to get a first-hand account from the attorney, the family's attorney, to tell us what's going on. So thanks to her for doing our show, and thanks for George Johnson from thegrio.com for really being vulnerable on the show and talking to us about his friend Jay, and how meth is the new black in the world. So thanks to that as well. And also, we have not figured this out yet, but we will. We'll figure out the age limit to bottoming. I'm gonna make that my journalistic duty for the next hour. Into my next bottoming.
I don't know how to put it. I just don't know. Without really seriously, without sounding ageist. Like, because I could say, like, you know what, 60 should be it, and I'm sure there is somebody out there who is like 65, like,
and
bitch, please.
Power bottom.
Do like,
take it like this.
She's like, just giving you extensions. Yes. These belly lessons did not go to waste. Okay.
But I mean, I really have to really educate a guest about what happens to the body after somebody. I need a doctor to tell me exactly what to, like, you know, maybe they have a better idea. Maybe, you know, maybe I'll get a doctor on next week to talk about this, to see exactly what's a good age to stop bottoming. But anyway, that's coming up next. But I mean, not coming up next, but coming up in future episodes of SIP. But so we're gonna leave you guys tonight, and we should let you know that we're gonna have some really great people on the show coming up in the next few weeks. Vert Pipe, which Isaac has no idea who the fuck that is. You guys have to remember Vert Pipe. It was a 90s group. I forget the name of the song. I think it's like, is it Bittersweet? No, it's not. Vert Pipe. I'll figure it out. But anyway,
well, I'm sure I liked them. They had the word pipe in it.
But no, Vert Pipe is going to be on our show. Bilal's going to be on our show too, which is really cool.
He could come in studio, right?
I don't know. We'll see. I think he's going to be here on a Thursday and, you know, not a Friday. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But they're all going to be a part of our show. So you have to stay tuned and listen. So that's it for us tonight. I'm Lennox Magee.
I'm Isaac King.
And for David Dodd, who's in New York being a drag queen, which we are completely appreciate and love and adore. We'll see you guys next week with more of The Sip. I'll be reporting live from Palm Springs with a special report, so stay tuned for that. I'll be in a pool with a cocktail, like, hey guys!
Yes, Bland.
All right, guys, have a good night, and sending you love and light. Take care.
Bye.
Good show. Drag a little bit, and I'm glad we're going to be down to an hour next week. I'm really excited about the hour. Girl, you little bitch.
Girl, yeah, girl.
Ooh, how's Gabe?
He's good.
Good.
His cousin died.
Oh no.
Like,
were they close?
I think so, yeah.
Is he in Alabama?
No, man.
Local? Chicago?
No, I'm sorry. Yes, he's in Alabama. Cousin.
What were we saying? Like a half hour early. No, well, we were done at 7:30 now. We're going to be done at 7:30. Holy. Canoe.